Hi, everybody. Welcome to Just Like Other Girls, a podcast where we talk about things that matter, things that don't, and everything in between.
I'm Shandy.
And I'm Alicia. And today we want to talk about whether confidence is really the key and self love versus self acceptance.
Okay, Alicia, straight off the bat, is confidence really the key?
That is actually a very interesting question. I think everybody is always like, oh, have self confidence, be confident, the whole thing. Like we mentioned in the last episode, I've definitely struggled a lot, like especially when I was younger, with stuff like confidence, self image. I would say no, just because I spent so long faking having confidence or just like trying to make up for not being confident with a bunch of other things that I don't think confidence is the key. I will say, now that I do have some self confidence, it's made my life so much easier. Like, it's so weird not having to just fake liking how you look or like feeling good that day. Sometimes I just am. What about you?
Yeah, for me, confidence isn't really the key. It's just not the most important thing to me. I think it's normal for humans to have times where they feel confident, and it's totally normal for you to not be confident in some situations also. So I think, like you mentioned just now, I don't think it's necessary for you to have confidence all the time to the point where you have to fake it.
I have to ask though now, are you confident?
Again, I would say yes and no, just because it depends on situations. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, it turns on and off for me sometimes. Like today I don't feel great just cause like I just cut my hair. A lot of stuff is like it's like changing my life. During the regular school year, usually I'm fine. I think I like stability. So like when my life is stable and everything's going great, I feel great. But like right now, a bit rocky.
Would you say that you were confident though?
Oh, absolutely not. For a few years, I was bullied on and off again. I think in like primary school, and like throughout secondary school, I felt like trash. So I was not confident for I think the first 10 years of schooling, and I think also because everyone was wearing like the same uniform, and like, uniforms are by no means comfortable, right? Especially if like you don't fit it quite right. So I was never in a place where I was like, I feel good. No, I never felt good. Then I came into poly and I started wearing clothes I liked. And I started like changing up the way I saw myself, wearing makeup, stuff like that. And funnily enough, it made me more confident to like put on things like that.
Would you say that your confidence stemmed from things like fashion and makeup, appearance?
I would say my confidence comes from being able to control how other people see me now. Like having to look the same way every day for 10 years. I don't think it made me less confident because I wasn't confident to begin with. But I think not being able to develop the style that I like made me feel less like myself overall.
Yeah, I get it.
You? Were you confident?
I would say that back then, I'm more fixated on being confident in terms of appearances. I wanted to be the trendiest person in school. I wanted to be the first to wear makeup. And yeah, I seek my confidence from my appearances. And I guess a lot of validation from outside sources about my appearances. So I wouldn't really say I was actually confident back then. I would say that I was validated sometimes and sometimes not.
Mm.
Yeah, I discovered that confidence is something that I cannot find from outside sources.
Yeah.
That's just validation to me.
Yeah.
But I would say as I grew older now, um, my confidence stem from things that are more realistic. Like for example, a skill that I'm good at, etc., rather than appearances. Maybe it has something to do with growing more mature or growing older. I don't know. Yeah.
No, but I get that because like if there was one thing I was confident in growing up, it was like my ability to learn and like my English skills, like we mentioned previously. The reason I bring up appearance now is because it's something I lacked so severely back then. Yeah, I think thankfully I've never been in a place where I felt unsure or unconfident of like my language skills, so that's always one thing I had to fall back on. But when I think of confidence now, I think of like what do I see when I look in the mirror in the morning? And thankfully now I see something I like quite a lot.
That's great.
Yeah. What about you? How do you define your own confidence?
I'm just gonna be completely honest. I don't know. I don't really feel like I have a benchmark for when I feel confident and when I don't. I think it's the little things where like maybe I'm going out today with a friend and I chose a pretty outfit for myself and I wore the makeup I like and I feel confident at that moment, but I don't know if that confidence will be carried throughout the day. Neither do I think about these moments a lot. Yeah, I've never really sat down to think about if I'm confident or not, or if I liked myself or not, unless it's moments where like I'm reflecting on myself at night at 1 a.m. kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think like we've mentioned before, I'm definitely one to overthink everything I do and that happens to me. So I've been thinking about this for a bit ever since we pitched like this episode idea actually. For the most part, my confidence for some reason is like an on and off switch. When I wake up in the morning, I'm either gonna be great that day or that day is gonna be kind of wonky. So I think for me, there's like a pretty solid metric, but it's not one I can control right now.
For me, it's more of it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I still have to go on with my day. It's fine. I'll just
Yeah.
live with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I think for myself, I don't really care about confidence. Which is why to answer the first question that we had, I feel like confidence isn't the key because I don't really care about it.
I spent so long not being confident that like for me the reason confidence isn't the key is because I'm well aware that even if I don't have it that day or that week or that month, I'm going to be fine. I'll just go about my day regardless of whether I feel good or not.
Yeah, and one day it will pop up magically.
Yeah,
I feel.
one day I'll just come back and then I'll be
Yeah.
great again. I do have to ask though, like, as two people who have grown in confidence over the last few years, do you have any self-confidence tips for whoever might be watching or for like your younger self?
Self-confidence tips. Yeah, the thing is, other than in terms of appearances, like I said in the previous episode, if you don't like something you can change, but it has to come from within yourself rather than trying to fulfill someone else's expectation of you. I guess another tip would be try not to seek validation from others. I mean, we are all humans, it's bound to happen. You are bound to want validation from people around you, but you have to remember in the end, you're the one in charge of your own body, you're the one in charge of your life. Don't let outside sources affect your decisions too much. Yeah. What about you?
I think because I mentioned my confidence isn't something I really control right now. Like I think I have some semblance of control over it, but there's no day where I wake up and I say, oh, I'm going to be confident today and I can follow through with it. So I would say my tips are, okay. One thing that's very interesting is also I don't have a very solid memory of my childhood, so I actually don't know how I got here. I will say though that like if you aren't confident in something, at least for me, this is how it worked. It's if I'm not confident in something, I find ways to change it. And somehow, at least for me, it's applicable for most things. Where like I used to be very comfortable in my style, but my style was if you've seen the Instagram post from last week, you know my style was any oversized shirt and shorts. I was comfortable, but I didn't feel good, right? So I started branching out. I think that was always what it was for me. If I wasn't confident in doing something, I would just look for ways to change that. Not necessarily get better, sometimes maybe to pursue a different path within that same field. And then it will help me to feel better by virtue of what I was doing. Oh, you know what? One thing that really helped me was, you know how there are a bunch of like self-help pages on Instagram, the kind of pages that tell you like drink this in the morning and manifest your wishes or whatever. For me at least, I can't find myself believing in those at all because if I do, it feels too much like I'm taking instructions from another person. And more importantly, if they don't work for me, it will just feel like I'm failing at something. This sounds so cliche, but I really started being more confident when I stopped listening to other people's advice. I just figured it out on my own. It was rough for the first couple of years, but like I'm getting there.
Yeah, so we kind of have similar tips for this question. And from what I understand from both of us, I came to this conclusion that confidence actually takes effort.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which leads me to the next question. Is it really worth to take that much effort to achieve confidence?
I think it depends. I think if you are somebody that needs to feel good or like that places a lot of emphasis on how you feel, having the confidence definitely is like an insane boost to your ego. It makes you hold your head up high, stuff like that. Yeah, I feel like confidence takes practice, you know? You don't just wake up one day and look in the mirror and say, I look banging today and you leave the house. It's really weird because sometimes I feel like I'm being a bit too self-centered when I look in the mirror. I'm like, wow, I look great today. And my first thought will be, no, no one says that. You look like trash. But that second thought is always just a gut reaction to me being confident or me trying to be confident. So like when I say something negative, it's like a younger version of myself being like, ew, I've never seen this before, go away.
Yeah.
So like I feel like, at least for me, confidence is, it's almost like a skill that you need to practice. Now that I'm a little bit more grown up, I realize that I don't know anyone who's truly confident. If they are, I've never met them. I know people who had issues with themselves, found a way to fix them, and they're now just like confident with who they are because they worked to get there.
To me, it's not really worth the effort, I guess. I mean, from what I've said just now, I think you can understand that I'm someone who goes with the flow. I don't really care even for myself. If I don't feel good that day, then suck it up and go on with your day. Am I willing to put in that effort sometimes? Yes. But I would say I'm not obsessed with it either. But I'm happy for people who are able to find their confidence in their own ways. Definitely.
Yeah. It's so weird also because like I feel like there's a very strange like tightrope that we walk in between like self-deprecation. I don't know, I feel like maybe it's harder for girls. There's a very weird line between thinking a girl is like too self-deprecating and almost narcissistic.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up because how much confidence is enough confidence and how much confidence is too much confidence. And who really set the skill, you know?
I have no idea.
But I think this is not really related to the subject
Yeah.
we are talking about. So this brings us to our next point. What do you think about self-love versus self-acceptance?
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's start with the definition. Our definition, to be
Okay.
exact.
How do you define it?
Personally, we must make this clear. Personally, I define self-love as the name suggests, actually loving yourself. I associate self-love with acts like finding things to love about yourself or like trying to positively view every part of yourself. And self-acceptance, on the other hand, is more lenient. It's something that I also strive to achieve more than self-love. The difference is that with acceptance, you don't need to put in so much effort. Like I mentioned before, the confidence thing, it takes effort. Well, I think self-acceptance, while it does take an effort to sit down and be like, yeah, I need to accept that this is a part of my body, this is a part of my personality, I should live with it. It doesn't have to be viewed positively, if you get what I mean. I think it's harder for you to view something that you dislike positively than to just accept and live with it. Yeah.
It's like a middle ground for you.
Yeah.
Like you are not forcing yourself to one end of the spectrum when you're already on the other.
Yeah, definitely. What about you?
For me, I would define self-love as like being able to love yourself as a whole, or being able to find different aspects of yourself that you can love and that you like about yourself. And then I guess in my opinion, self-acceptance would be knowing what you have, like the traits you have, and being okay with them, or not actively finding ways or reasons to hate on yourself for them. Kind of like accepting that you live in your own body type of beat.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which one do you associate yourself with more?
It's weird, honestly. I think I spent a very long time hating the way I looked and like hating certain traits about my personality and stuff. I don't know if I can bring myself to love them. Some days I do, but like most days I just stick with this is what I have, this is what I have always had, or this is what I've had for a very long time. I am okay with it and I will live with it. Even if I would like it to be different, I don't think I would take any harsh steps to change it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Growing up, 2016 onwards, there was a lot of those, infographics or like Twitter screenshots on Instagram where they are like, self-love starts from self-care and like you need to do these steps, and or else it's like you need to write words in the mirror, positive words in the mirror.
Yeah.
Okay, while I respect people who do that, like if you do that and it works for you and you gain self-love or self-acceptance through that, go ahead. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but to me, I just don't really see the need to take the extra step.
When you bring up the self-love is self-care is whatever thing, I do have to ask you, have you heard the term toxic positivity?
Yeah, I did.
I wrote down a definition. This definition is from Google, which is just toxic positivity is the belief that no matter how dire or difficult a situation is, people should maintain a positive mindset. But then later in the definition, it says that this attitude doesn't just stress the importance of optimism, it minimizes and denies any trace of human emotion that aren't strictly happy or positive. What do you think?
Like I mentioned before, I think it's not always necessary to feel positive about something that you already don't like. Like you mentioned just now, if it's already at the other end of the spectrum, is there really a need for you to force another perception onto it? The thing about self-love is that I feel like it has to be an adequate amount. If the media you consume or the idea of self-love is imposed on you too much outside of your comfort zone and you try to incorporate it into your lifestyle and force yourself into it, I think that's toxic positivity. Yeah, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, the word toxic's in the title, but I have a very poor outlook on toxic positivity because, like the definition said, it minimizes emotions that aren't like positive, happy, and yeah, I've definitely been on the receiving end of toxic positivity, and it really sucks. Just because I think my issue with it is where it starts and ends. When you mention like Twitter threads and those Instagram pages that tell you what juice cleansers you can drink or whatever. Like when people tell me to be happy or tell me to cheer up, it kind of starts and ends there, right? Almost as if they don't mean it. I know they do, but when you start by talking and you end with just talking, there's no action for me. And it feels very surface level. If you were to tell me to love myself back when I was in a really rough time, being unable to do it when everyone else seemed to be able to do it made me feel even worse.
Yeah, that's my thing. I feel like self-love becomes toxic positivity when it feels unnatural to have negative emotions about yourself.
Ah.
Having all these emotions, these negative feelings about yourself, like anger or like sadness because you don't look a certain way or something, it's completely normal, right? And as humans, I feel like personally with the self-love slash toxic positivity movement, we have normalized self-love instead of accepting human emotions, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. We do have to stress that like we are not saying self-love is toxic positivity, but I think both of us are of the opinion that right now a lot of self-love at the very least when you are feeling down can feel very performative. So I think where we draw the line is if trying to love yourself feels like you are just hiding or hurting a part of yourself, then it could just be getting toxic for you.
Yeah, and we stress that if it works for you, then it works for you. If it doesn't work for us, then it doesn't work for us. So we respect all opinions and we hope that you will understand where we are coming from as well. Yeah, we are not trying to impose any opinions on you.
At the end of the day, we really are just
Discussing.
talking. We're just talking. We are not experts. We are certainly not people who have like done field studies or anything. These are just our thoughts. And apart from minimizing your own feelings, it feels like now people kind of glue self-love and thinking you are beautiful together. And I did want to talk about that where like I have parts of myself I would never find beautiful. Maybe I will, but I don't think I can. And the idea that in order to love myself I have to think I am beautiful seems so counterintuitive to me.
Yeah, definitely. I feel the same way. Like I mentioned before, human emotions are such a gray area, right? You can't always feel a certain way whenever you want. To me, there's always this question of, is there really a point in forcing myself to have a positive outlook of whatever I dislike?
Let's say I don't like my nose, because right now I don't. If you told me that the only way for me to love myself is to think that my nose is beautiful, I'd be like, cool, then I guess I can't. Because I don't think my nose is beautiful, but I also don't think that something as trivial as finding it attractive or not, or finding any part of myself attractive or not, should be a barrier to me being okay with who I am.
In contrary to self-love, I think self-acceptance is more applicable to everyone's daily life.
Mm.
I think self-acceptance definitely helped me cope with even things that I dislike about myself. I kept mentioning throughout this entire episode, I don't feel the need to force myself to like something if I don't. And self-acceptance helps me cope with the fact that it's natural for me to dislike these things. In some sort of weird, distant way, it is a positive way of looking at things. You get what I mean? It means that maybe one day I'll come to love it, maybe not now, and it's okay. So it just overall made it easier for me to stop stressing about things that I can't change or that I can't love.
I feel like self-love and self-acceptance can get fairly muddled up in my own brain. My goal is to not have to be beautiful. I'm doing my best to not try to quantify myself, because I think we do enough of that as is. Like, we quantify the things we make by putting price tags on them. We quantify the things we look at by saying how much they're worth on like the market. To quantify yourself as a human being feels so weird to me, to like give yourself a value based off of whether your features are traditionally pretty, whether you have a nice personality, stuff like that. They're good things to have, but I'm trying to really hard to break out of the mindset that in order to feel like I fit in, I should be these things.
Yeah.
And I think that's where self-acceptance comes in for me. I think because also I hold a lot of traditional beauty standards, like internalized within myself. Maybe I can't break out of those yet, but same as you, it will take me time if I wanted to, but at the moment I don't have to. And that's where self-acceptance comes in that I don't have to, but I could.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess to give context, we should probably say why we hold this mindset, like why we may be pro self-acceptance as opposed to self-love. Because we talked about this briefly like before the podcast, but why does this work more for you than the other systems we talked about?
Actually, this mindset of self-acceptance kind of stemmed from this poem I read when I was 14. Okay, I know this sounds scary, but hear me out. I don't really remember the poem anymore. I don't remember the author either, but if I can, I'll try to find it. It went something like, and because I cannot love myself, I put all the love I have onto someone else.
Huh.
Okay, I do have to say, the way I see this quote is very different back then when I was 14 and when I first read it versus now. But it has always stuck with me and grew with me. When I was 14, I just read it and like I took it as a romance or like love quote for a romantic partner. And it was a heartbreaking quote, I guess, to mean that you give all the love that you can't have for yourself to someone else. But now I think of it as it's natural. It's a human emotion. If you cannot love yourself, putting the love onto someone else could also generate a positive feeling or like a new perception onto yourself. For example, if I've never liked my nose and another person has the same nose as me, loving that person for his or her features that you can see in yourself, it gives you a sort of love, I guess.
A sort of like mirrored confidence.
Yeah. I guess even though I was saying I associate myself more with self-acceptance rather than self-love, I do find it quite romantic that you're able to put this love onto somewhere else instead and still have it in your life.
Just because you can't love yourself doesn't mean you can't love the thing.
Okay, yeah, just because you can't love yourself doesn't mean you can't love a certain feature about you or a certain personality trait that you can apply onto someone else.
Yeah, definitely. Hearing that quote from you, like, as a 14-year-old, I would have been like, oh, it is because I hate myself and therefore I must love someone else to make up for it.
Yeah.
I don't see it that way at all now. 14-year-old me was so dramatic. But yeah, now I definitely see it more of, similar to you, maybe I can't love myself. Or like maybe I have trouble with it and that's fine, but if I already have love to give, if I can't give it to myself, why not invest it in other people, make them feel good? Because if I make other people feel good, I feel good, right?
Yeah.
And if other people are happy and I made them happy, honestly, at least for me, that's way more fulfilling than just pure self-love and confidence could ever be.
Yeah, you phrased it perfectly. Like how I wanted to say it.
Right now, I would say my need for self-acceptance comes from feeling ugly. We've established this before. I have never seen myself as pretty or anything like that. And that's not like a tragic, please pity me thing. That's just like a fact. I've never seen myself as someone who is traditionally beautiful or traditionally cute or whatever. And I used to think I needed it. Now I don't think I do. But despite the fact that I'm more settled and more okay with not needing it now, that doesn't mean that like it doesn't still affect me. So for me at least, it's just more doable for me to accept myself and live with what I have than for me to jump through hoops and say that I love me and everything that I have. Because right now I don't. Maybe in the future I will. But if I can't right now, I don't see the point in forcing myself to.
Yeah. That's the thing though. I feel like more people need to realize the fact that self acceptance is an option too. Of course, do whatever that works for you. That's my case. I just hope everyone would do what's the most confident for them, whether be it self love or self acceptance.
Yeah. Like if you find yourself on a journey that isn't like the one portrayed in media or on Instagram or whatever, that's perfectly fine because that's what works for you. We filmed for a little bit less than usual, but I think before we end off, I do have one more thing to say, which is just I would say self love and self acceptance are both incredibly important. But if you're at a stage where you can't do either or you can't do both, that's perfectly fine because sometimes you just find yourself like unable to love yourself, and that's fine. But I just want to say, like, if you ever find yourself talking to your friends or like to someone you know, and they say that they can't love themselves or that they feel insecure, I think just put yourselves in their shoes first. At least I found that's what works for me. Don't start and end with telling them to love themselves. I don't think you'd want to hear it either when you are feeling bad about yourself, right?
Yeah, I would say that the word self is very important in this context, which is why I always think that there isn't a need for you to focus too much on validation from outside sources or focus too much on what outside sources tell you how you should feel and how you should deal with things because you know yourself best. I would say just take it slow, discover yourself. You have a long way to go.
Yeah.
Do things for yourself.
Things for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. This conversation may have gone like round and round, and you'll probably hear it in the final draft, but like we hope that this helped.
Yeah, we hope that we have given you another outlook or another opinion that you might want to consider.
Like this is definitely a very abstract conversation. I don't think it's possible to have a black and white conversation when your definitions and your outlooks are all so different and so grey. If it sounded like we were going in circles, we probably were. But we hope this helped anyway.
Yeah, in conclusion, we are not experts either. We are just two teenagers navigating through life, navigating through the same things as you guys probably are.
Yeah, and we hope that this discussion has been fulfilling for you as it was for us, I think. And that it opened you up to a few more perspectives. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye!
Bye!